What if everything you thought you knew about Eden was backwards? What if the serpent wasn't the villain, but the teacher? What if Eve wasn't deceived, but awakened? You're about to discover the Gnostic Eden, a hidden interpretation that turns Genesis inside out. Tonight, we journey into the lost Gospels of Nag Hammadi, where Eve becomes the hero, wisdom trumps obedience, and the garden itself was never paradise, but prison. December 1945. An Egyptian farmer strikes his hoe against something hard. Buried for 16 centuries, 13 leather-bound codices emerge from the desert sand. Inside these books, scholars found something that shattered everything they thought they knew about early Christianity. The Nag Hammadi Library contained Gospels that told a different story. A story where the God of Genesis wasn't the true creator, where the garden wasn't paradise, where the serpent spoke truth. This is Gnosticism, the ancient Christian movement that dared to ask, what if we got it all wrong? Tonight, we'll explore 4 revelations that emerge from these forbidden texts. First, the garden as prison. Second, Eve as divine messenger. Third, the serpent's sacred gift. Fourth, the true meaning of the fall. Are you ready to see Eden through Gnostic eyes? Picture Eden, not as paradise, but as the most beautiful cage ever constructed. In Gnostic teaching, the God who created this material world wasn't the true divine source. They called him the demiurge, a lesser deity who mistook himself for the Almighty. The demiurge crafted Adam and Eve not as his beloved children, but as vessels to trap divine sparks of consciousness. Think about it. In Genesis, Adam and Eve possess no knowledge of good and evil. They're innocent, but they're also ignorant. The Gnostics asked, is ignorance truly bliss, or is it simply another word for slavery? In the Apocryphon of John, we read that Adam was placed in paradise so that he might eat from the tree of his life and live forever. Forever trapped in material existence, never knowing his true divine nature. The garden wasn't a gift. It was a gilded prison designed to keep humanity from discovering who they really were. But every prison has a key, and in Eden, that key had scales. Forget what you've been told about Eve. In the Gnostic texts, she's not the weak one who fell. For temptation, she's Zoe, which means life in Greek. She's the awakener, the wisdom bringer, the one who dared to think. In the hypostasis of the archons, Eve is described as the instructor, sent by the divine realm to awaken Adam from his spiritual slumber. She represents Sophia, divine wisdom herself, taking human form to liberate humanity from ignorance. When Eve approaches the tree, she's not being deceived. She's fulfilling her divine mission. The Gnostic Gospel of Philip tells us Eve separated from Adam. If she had not separated, she would not have given birth to death. But when she separated from him, she gave birth to death. This isn't about disobedience. It's about consciousness choosing to wake up, even if awakening brings suffering. Think of every great awakening in your own life. Didn't it start with someone or something challenging what you thought you knew? Eve is that challenger, that sacred disturber of false peace, but she couldn't complete the awakening alone. She needed an ally with ancient wisdom. The serpent enters Eden not as tempter, but as teacher. In Gnostic interpretation, the serpent represents the nous, divine mind, seeking to reconnect with trapped divine sparks. The testimony of truth from Nag Hammadi directly states, the serpent was wiser than all the animals that were in paradise. When the serpent tells Eve, you will not die, he's speaking profound truth. The death the demiurge threatened wasn't physical, it was the death of ignorance. Your eyes will be opened, and you will be like gods, knowing good and evil. This isn't temptation, it's revelation. The fruit of the tree of knowledge represents gnosis, direct spiritual knowledge that can't be taught, only experienced. In eating it, Eve doesn't fall, she rises. She doesn't sin, she awakens. The serpent's Gift isn't deception. It's the most precious thing consciousness can receive, the knowledge of its own divine nature. But this gift comes with a price, and that price is what we call the fall. If this ancient wisdom is opening your eyes like it opened Eve's, join the Sacred Horizon community. Subscribe for more hidden truths that illuminate the path home to your divine nature. What if the fall wasn't humanity's greatest failure, but its greatest necessity? In Gnostic understanding, the expulsion from Eden isn't punishment, it's liberation. The demiurge expels them because they've become dangerous. They know too much. They've tasted divinity. Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil, the demiurge declares in Genesis. In Gnostic reading, this isn't concern, it's terror. The cherubim with flaming sword isn't keeping humanity out of paradise. It's keeping them from returning to ignorance. Outside Eden, in the harsh world of duality, Adam and Eve can finally begin their true spiritual journey. They'll experience suffering, yes, but suffering awakens, pain teaches, struggle transforms. The Gospel of Philip reminds us, those who say they will die first and then rise are in error. If they do not first receive the resurrection while they live, when they die, they will receive nothing. The fall, then, is the necessary descent that makes ascent possible. Every spiritual tradition knows this truth. You must be lost before you can be found. You must die before you can be reborn. In eating the fruit, Eve didn't doom humanity. She initiated the greatest adventure consciousness has ever undertaken. So here we are, children of Eve's choice, carriers of the serpent's gift, inheritors of consciousness that dared to question paradise. The Gnostic Eden shows us that our spiritual journey didn't begin with failure. It began with the courage to grow. Every time you choose difficult truth over comfortable lies, you honor Eve's decision. Every time you question authority that demands blind obedience, you carry the serpent's wisdom. Every time you awaken to your own divine nature, you justify the fall. The Gnostics believed that scattered throughout humanity are divine sparks, pneuma, waiting to remember who they really are. Are you one of them? Has something in this ancient story stirred recognition in your soul? The garden was never the destination. It was the starting point, and the journey, this magnificent, painful, beautiful journey of awakening consciousness, that's the real paradise. Thank you for walking this path with me tonight. Until we meet again in the sacred mysteries, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep awakening. The serpent's gift lives on in you.